Hello, welcome to the class. Dr. O here. Today I'm going to talk about market theory. Market theory is the most important part in economics, even not in introduction to the microeconomics, but also microeconomics itself as well. Well, even in all the economics topic or concept, market theory itself is the most important part. So take this very seriously, and I hope you understand very well. Even though we are going to talk about consumer theory, producer theory later, while intermediate micro level, you will go further the behind the scene of each one of theories and small detail later. But in the introductory level, we are going to briefly understand one step by one, and we just understand how market mechanism is going on right directions. So, market itself can be defined in different ways. In our textbook, it is like a market is a group of buyers and sellers of particular product. So that focusing on the members who are participating in the market. But in other perspective, I more prefer to this way. The market itself is the place that trade happens. So anywhere, what type of setups and environment where we can observe the trade in that place, then that can be called market. So in old days, students are confused or not even sure about Amazon, Coupang, those type of environment or setup, which is online transaction, is not sounds like a market. But nowadays, all the students easily understand that is also different types of market itself. So market is, buyer seller is, participating the place or the group or the, environment or setups, but also we can observe actual trade happen in the market. So market can be defined as a group, market can be defined as a place, whatever it is. The setup is a little bit different from the classical fish market, flea market, cow market, oil market. Not feasible, place is not necessary. Nowadays online, virtually we trade and then we can get it eventually. So buyer and seller itself exist or participating in the market. So now the concept of market is pretty well understood in general. So now we need to understand about each individual or each part of group, buyer and seller. So classical microeconomics perspective, we learned before market theory, we should learn consumer theory and producer theory, which is consumer is composed or consists of total market demand, and producer side composed of the action of supply side of it. But we just assume that part is a little bit simplified. Today we're going to looking at intuitive way to how we compose demand and supply, and in the market how supply and demand reacted, and equilibrium price and quantity is coming out from the market. That's what we are going to see today. So basically what you're going to see today is what factors to determine the demand curve or demand function, demand behavior. So it's a kind of, in daily life, we always approach to the economic problems as the demand side, consumer side. We're always looking at to buy things and consume certain product and service. So easily understand that part. And producer side, we always can think of company or firm, how they react with it. and the fundamental and the principle of each one of the individual consumer and producer, we can think of it, and how we can build up market demand and market supply. And later, both supply and demand compose together, how we can approach to, or how we can get the equilibrium point. From that point, we can figure out equilibrium price and equilibrium quantity. So what type of price is determined in the market, then how much transaction is going on, how many goods will be sold, and how many goods will be consumed in that market. So demand, supply. So in other words, market theory and to getting the equilibrium, we're saying supply and demand model. So supply, demand, demand supply model, supply demand model. Usually supply and demand model, we're saying, but we compose the demand side of it, build up the demand concept, and build up the supply concept, and get them together and find out the equilibrium point. That's what we're going to do today. Now, let's get into it. First of all, let me assume this first. To do this, today's discussion or concept itself is based on competitive market assumption. So what is a competitive market? Sometimes we're saying perfectly competitive market. So perfectly competitive market is assumed like this way. There's so many buyers, so many sellers. The reason why we need so many buyers and sellers is individual buyers and sellers' behavior, or try to hedge or manipulate the price by themselves, by their interest, is not working. Because even though one individual consumer, one individual buyer, for example, doing something else to get the better benefit or their interest out of it, but it doesn't work because there's all other players or other buyer and seller exist. Even though you are working your own directions, your direction doesn't impact equilibrium point. That is the coming out from the perfectly competitive market assumption. So that assumption, so many buyer, so many seller, so individual buyer and seller cannot interfere the equilibrium point. And another thing is we are thinking of homogeneous product. Well, homogeneous, that means that exactly same product. So the quality wise or the product wise, we believe that that product itself is same. So producer from Hyundai, the product from the Hyundai, product from Ford, product from the Chevy doesn't change that much as a concept of cars. Well, in reality, it is really hard to find that homogeneous product. And eventually, we observed that lots of commercial is, on whatever platform or whatever form it is. In that cases, we cannot tell that is a perfectly competitive market. But still, we believe that under the perfectly competitive market assumption, we believe that homogeneous product, which is there is no difference between or among the product from all different type of sellers. So the product itself is same, exactly same from each other. Well, old classical example of perfectly competitive market product is agriculture product. Sometimes students will raise a question about it. So rice is rice, water is water, wheat is wheat, but internationally, there is a whole different type of rice, right? In Eastern Asia, China, Korea, Japan does eat sticky rice, but Thailand or Vietnam does have like very dry, long grain rice, and even Italian eat the rice but different type. Those things happens. Turkish and Middle East, all India, all different type of rice exist. But still, we believe that agriculture market, the product itself is homogeneous, and the quality and the product property is the same. We assumed, and also the category is bigger and bigger. We're setting up. Then we can accept as a homogeneous product. Perfectly competitive market, many buyers and many sellers, so many buyers and so many sellers, and homogeneous product, we believe, and we assume that under that concept, individual producer or seller or buyer cannot interfere into equilibrium point by their own actions. So only one people out of infinitely many player out there cannot interfere, cannot change equilibrium by themselves, by their will. So that is the main point of perfectly competitive market. Under that assumption, we are doing one by one today. So first thing we're going to do is the demand side. So how we can derive demand curve or demand function. Well, demand function wise, function itself, let's think about function, mathematical function. We learned, maybe high, grade in elementary schools or middle school we learned it. So function itself is composed with two variables, right? One variable function, we assume that. Then one independent variable and another dependent variable exist. And then we find out functional relationship, causal relationship, independent variable affected to the change of dependent variable. So we believe as demand function, quantity demanded, each individual's quantity demanded is determined by the price. Price has a causal impact on quantity demanded. So that's nothing but demand function. Or that is drawn in the space, like price and quantity, that is nothing but demand function. Well, if it is too technical as mathematics, that's fine, you don't understand clearly about this. Somebody is preferred this way, clear, sometimes abstract, but using or borrowing the idea from the mathematics, easier to understand. But if you're not comfortable with this concept, then think about this way. Well, as an individual, as a consumer, we live daily life and some product you want to enjoy. So you want to demand a certain product. For example, in our textbook, it's a latte. Yeah, coffee mixed with, steamed milk, latte. So the latte price is big impact on how many cups of latte you want daily, weekly, monthly. So for example, you are a coffee drinker and every morning you want it. If the price is 50 cents per cup, then you will buy 2 cups per day. It depends on your taste preference, but depending on the price, the amount you want to consume is, can be determined by it. If it is not like, latte or other product, apple, pizza, well, ramen, whatever it is, can be explained like that way. So we want to find out the relationship between price of product and quantity demanded in that product. So price is lower, we want to buy more. If the price goes up, you cut down your demand of that product. So price and quantity demanded is negatively related. So price goes up, you don't want that much of demand. So opposite direction. Price goes up, quantity demanded goes down. So that is nothing but law of demand. Price and quantity demanded is negatively related. Price goes up, quantity demanded goes down. So in other words, we can theoretically setting up the model like demand schedule. As we can see in the graph like this, price of lattes and quantity of lattes demanded is as a table, and we can draw in the space of quantity horizontal axis and vertical axis as a price. So right here, the price of latte is 0, then you will want that 16 cups of lattes and $1, $14, $2, $12, $3, $10, $4, $8, $5, $6, $6 for maybe per month. Yeah, the unit can be changed easily, or liters or cc's or whatever unit you can determine, and you can change of it. This is just example of it. So individually you plan as a price changes how much a latte you want to demand it correspondingly as a demand schedule, and we can draw in the space of quantity demanded and price out of it. Well, some students may have question about this, why you say price as or introduced as a dependent variable, but it is located on the vertical axis or y-axis, Well, that is a long customs of economics field. I didn't setting up like that way. It's been all so while to do this. So yeah, I cannot change it even though I really want to, independent variable theoretically or mathematically with setting up the x-axis or horizontal axis. But in economics, we use it, for a long time, and we cannot change it at this point. We draw this space. Price is a vertical axis or y-axis all the time. So price is, vertical axis, y-axis, and quantity demanded is, horizontal axis or x-axis. Sorry for that, but we use this for a long time. We cannot change it right now, and we will use this direction for a while, but I don't know for how long after all. But so far it's been a while to use it, and from now on it is really hard to change it. But think about the logic itself. The price is causal variable, which is independent variable, but the quantity demand is a dependent variable. That's why we're saying demand function is a function of price, and also price can be caused the change of quantity demanded. Sorry for the orientation of axis, but it is used as it is so far. Next one we are going to talk about is market demand. Well, we just can say that demand function is individual. As me, I will making a demand schedule, and as the price goes by, how many cups of latte I'm going to demand. So $0.16, $1.14, correspondingly we draw it. But now we're looking at this as expand as a market version. In the market, perfectly competitive market, so many buyers, so many sellers exist, so it's expanded. There might have a little bit different type of person exist in the market. Somebody who didn't drink coffee, did not participate in this coffee market or latte market, but somebody who is similar but doesn't like that much of coffee like me, a little bit less demanded, exist. But however, corresponding price, there is a corresponding amount of demanded exist, and it is aggregated in that way. So it is like horizontally increases corresponding price. Price is equal to 0, 16, and there is a lot of 16% corresponding to the 0, then we're adding up as the market participant is increases. So in that perspective, for example, we build up this different type of market demand, even though it is not increased crazily, but we increase a little bit of it. So price is 0, market quantity is 24, $1.21, $2.18, $3.15, $4.12 correspondingly. So it is horizontally aggregated corresponding price. 0 price, 16 plus 8, so 24, right? Additional people who enjoy or are willing to demand as a $0 how many amount of participant is added in the market, and we aggregate it. It can be 24, but 2,400, 24,000, 24 million. It can be shown or driven as whole different number out of it, but we give the example like that. So the concept itself is like that. Individually scheduled demand is drawing as a demand curve, and horizontally aggregated corresponding price to the quantity every people who participate in the market, and we aggregate as the market demand. If it is so many buyers exist, then the market demand curve itself is way outside relative to the individual demand, and that is horizontally aggregated in that way. So market demand is determined in that logic. So as I told you, basically demand curve is downward sloping. The reason is price and quantity demanded is negatively related. Price increases, quantity demanded goes down. Well, why are you keep saying quantity demanded instead of demand? You say demand function and demand, you said, and why are you keep differentiate demand and quantity demanded? Well, that's a good question. Quantity demanded is a totally different concept as demand as a function itself. Demand, we are saying demand is demand function itself. So the curve itself. The function is shown or drawn in the space or P and Q, then the curve itself, the line itself, is demand curve, which is just a demand we are calling. But quantity demanded is each individual point on top of that curve or function. So we need to differentiate two concepts very carefully, and we are going to use that concept and should comfortable to differentiate two concepts as a different things. Well, the reason is that quantity demanded is a function of price. Each price changes on top of that demand curve. There is a larger function, larger point. So the quantity itself, we can calculate it by the function itself. So plug in the number in the function as a price, and you can get the quantity demanded. Price changes, quantity demanded changes, correspondingly on top of along the line of demand curve or demand function. But now we're thinking about demand changes, which means that demand curve itself shift to the left, to the right. This trick or this technique is really important to analyze market theory, because once we drive supply curve or supply function, and then interaction in the market of supply and demand model, based on that we derive the equilibrium point and how equilibrium changes if there is some kind of impact going on the market. So under the cases, shift of demand, shift of supply can be determined by some power or some outside impact on it. So we need to be careful about differentiate quantity demanded and demand itself. Demand itself is referring to demand curve or demand function itself, and quantity demanded we can drive corresponding price on top of demand curve. So be careful about two concepts. And the reason why I keep differentiate two words very carefully is it is necessary to analyze it corresponding concept. Now we are thinking about demand changes. Well, mathematically it is easier. Let me put this mathematical way first. So we draw demand function. Demand function is demand itself is a function of price. Price changes, quantity demanded changes. All the point on top of demand curve, we can derive corresponding price and quantity demanded. If the price of that good changes, quantity demanded changes following or along the line of function. What if something else changes? Well, demand function shows two variable relationship, but behind the scene of it, there's a lot of other variable impact is abbreviated, which is the concept of ceteris paribus assumption. Well, ceteris paribus is the old letter, old words. In other words, that is a Latin words. So in English, Europe side using a Latin origin, but sometimes it used Latin words, looks fancy, and in economics we use that concept correspondingly. So ceteris paribus assumption is all other things are equal. Given other things are fixed, other variable or other impact just not changes, we believe the price only changes, correspondingly quantity demanded change, and we capture that impact as demand function. But the other impact is affected to the change of demand. So by doing so, we can intuitively analyze market equilibrium changes by looking at the impact of that variable changes to the demand curve, and that demand curve changes what changes in the market equilibrium point later. So that concept is really important, and that is the step to using supply and demand model or market theory to analyze the market systems. So let me go through the variable we can think of as demand curve changes. So in other words, demand curve shifters, shifting to the right, shift to the left, is possible with some other variable changes, which is impact on demand or taste or preference of consumers, but it is not directly referring to price or quantity demanded. Other variable changes, demand shift. It should be really important to change up the behavior of consumer. By doing so, demand curve move or shift. Well, there is a lot of thousands of variable. It is impacted to daily life consumption decision. But most likely, very important variables we can think of is like income. So consumption itself is determined by income. Your income increases, generally your consumption increases. So you want to buy more goods and services to make you happy as a consumer, right? Income changes, income increases. Intuitively, you can think of it, your demand naturally increases. You are richer, then you don't want to hesitate to buy more latte if you like it, right? Without changing the price of latte, you can enjoy more latte if you like coffee or latte. So that intuition, income increases, usually demand increases. So demand curve shift to the right. If income drops, income reduced, consumption frozen. In general, in macroeconomics concept or daily life, you're looking at the newspaper, you can see inflation. General prices goes up. That means that other goods price is going up. But in other words, we can interpret it as inflation means what? Your income, relative income goes down. Even though your income is exactly the same, all the price of other goods, general prices goes up, then you are relatively poor. In that cases, your income decreases. Then what will happen? Your demand curve shift to the left. So in that cases, consumption, aggregate level of consumption will reduce. So in other words, consumption frozen because of the inflation. We can think of that way too. Income is a really important factor to change or shift to the shift of demand curve. As I told you, inflation income relating issue, we are already thought about that the price of that product we are interested in, latte price changes, the quantity demanded of latte changes corresponding or along to the demand curve. What if other related goods price changes? Well, tea. Well, sometimes some people think that tea, green tea or black teas are a substitute of coffee. Yeah, it contains caffeine, and in the morning especially, you drink it, that helps you awaken, right, easily. So taste doesn't matter. I just prefer some, hot tea, hot drinks after, getting up. Then there is a substitute. It is called the relationship. You can substitute your consumption of coffee to the tea, black tea, green tea, like that. Then tea prices goes down. What are you gonna do? Oh, relatively, coffee price is exactly the same, but tea prices goes down. Instead of buying a latte or coffee, you are going to consume more tea because relative price goes down. So those kind of action changes or other impact, other price changes, that variable changes. It is not direct change of price of goods, of latte, or but it impact of coffee demand, latte demand. Sometimes you always enjoy, latte is just a coffee with the steamed milk, and sometimes you enjoy with the sugar prices goes up. The total consumption of coffee will reduce because you need to think about additional payment of sugar or some other ingredient you need to pay or consume together. But the good itself, the prices goes up, then you are hesitant to buy more coffee because you enjoy together with other goods. So demand is not determined by independently with other goods price. Other goods are consumed together or substitute together between them. Then your demand shift to each other because of other goods price changes. That is really important. Two other variable we need to think about demand changes. And sometimes other things like your preference or taste changes as time goes by, and you are impacted by other news. Coffee is good for your health in certain researches say, and or some research said you have a certain chronic disease you have, but it is helpful or not harmful with the disease. Your preference of latte or coffee consumption changes. That will impact it to shift to the left or shift to the right of demand curve itself. It is generally in the market is possible. It is individually to you is possible too. So good news for the certain stock prices goes up. Bad news, stock price goes down. The reason is demand or preference, taste. Your likelihood changes by that. So those outside impact change it to the demand curve shift to the right or to the left. It is a really important concept to doing market analysis one more time. And other things, we are not thinking about timeline of changes, but your expectation, which is certain goods price will increase tomorrow. What are you going to do? If you really like it, you want to buy it today because it is cheaper today. The price changes tomorrow. You are 100% sure or 90% sure, then you definitely go out to buy it. That's why some people easily go out to buy some product when we believe that there is a typhoon going on, hurricane going on, some kind of pandemic is going on. Some product is sold out and stock is disappear in general market. So it is a rare phenomenon. It's a very often we observe it. So those all the variables I'm just referring. There is a lot of other variable can be think of and can apply to the change of demand curve, demand function, shift to the right and shift to the left. But interesting or important variables is income and other goods price and expectations, those things. Taste changes by some news or outside impact. By doing so, not just the price of that good itself, but other variable changes, demand curve itself shift to the right or to the left. So it's a favor to increasing side of demand, then demand curve shift to the right, decreasing side is to the left. Left and right, right hand side is a plus, left hand side is a minus, you can think of it. The reason why left and right, I didn't say up and down, the reason is the supply curve is exactly like that. I'm just fixed with the increasing side is the right hand side, decreasing side is the left hand side. That will apply to supply curve exactly the same way. Now, let me talk about supply side. Well, we discussed a lot in demand side, so supply side is easily understood in same logic, opposite directions, right? First of all, supply curve or supply function itself is a price and quantity supplied is a positively related. The price goes up, company will try to sell more, product output in the market. So supply curve is upward sloping instead of demand curve is a downward sloping. So positive relationship between price and quantity supplied is nothing but law of supply. Well, in this case, same thing. Price is a causal variable. Price increases, company try to sell more output, or their stocks want to sell it more and more. So positively related as the price changes. And exactly same logic as we can see as a table and graph, right? Quantity of latte, for example, the Starbucks or all other, coffee shops. If the price of latte is 0, then, they don't want to sell any lattes, but $1, they want to sell 3. Individual, coffee shop perspective, $2 is 6 and $3 9, $4 12 correspondingly. So upward sloping supply curve is composed in the individual level. And next graph shows you the market level. It's the same thing as, horizontally aggregated. So given price, $0, nobody want to sell, but $1, it's adding up more and more relative to the previous individual supply schedule. So you can see the market level of supply and observe that, right? There is right there. So $0, 0, quantity supplied in the market, $1 5, $2 10, $3 15, correspondingly. So we can draw it, market, supply. It's the same thing we can think of supply curve shifter. How supply curve move. As I explained as a demand side, think about this. Price changes of latte, we can get the quantity supply changes, not the supply curve shift or anything. But other variable changes to change of supply. What type of variable we can think of? First of all, to building up the supply curve, we need to think about input factors. What is the input factors? Well, raw ingredients can be input factors. Labor and capital is a good example of input factors. So wage increases, what will happen? The cost of production increases, then they don't want to, or they cannot supply the goods corresponding price that much because cost is higher. The firm itself or company, the purpose of the company running is maximizing profit. Cost is increasing, they cannot sell that much of output. So input factor price changes, supply changes. How that changes? Input factor changes, price of input factor increases, they cannot sell that much. So supply curve shift to the left. Supply decreases. Makes sense, right? And other things, production side. Something we cannot explain well. It is interpreted as technology. So some technology to produce latte production process more efficient, then exactly same amount of cost, they can produce more. Then given price level, they willing to supply more, product. Then in that perspective, price doesn't change, right? The supply curve shift to the right, supply increases. In other words, supply curve shift to the right. So technology is ruined by some, pandemics or some outside effect, then supply curve shift to the left. Well, good example in real life, input factor price increases. Yeah, because of the Ukraine war, the cost of energy increases dramatically, oil price going up, then general supply curve shift to the left. Yeah, there is another reason why inflation we are, experience right now. Even though now a little bit stabilized with the energy price or oil price, but still the inflation doesn't go on, right? There is a lot of other factor in macroeconomics level of changes, but one way we can think of it is supply curve shift to the left, general prices going up. We are looking at individual, market, but aggregate level of certain phenomenon in macro level, price level itself, we can interpret as certain individual product price itself. So this supply demand analysis is really important to understand how market goes, how economy goes in general. So I would say 70% of economics is composed with supply and demand model. You understand well with this concept today, then it will apply to all over the economic concept later. So you should be, focusing on today's lecture and try to understand well. By doing so, these tools can be applied to everywhere in economics, whatever it is. Individual labor market, labor economics, you can apply it. And macro level, aggregate demand, aggregate supply, you can apply it. So you can easily understand, that concept of curve shifter, like a demand curve shift to the right or to shift to the left, supply curve shift to the right, shift to the left. By doing so, equilibrium price and quantity demanded, the equilibrium quantity changes correspondingly, and you can easily expect how economy goes and how market goes. Supply demand analysis, supply demand model, market theory itself is the most important concept or model in the economics. Well, other things, maybe number of sellers or, the number of worker increases, all those variable changes. So supply curve correspondingly changes. Company and more firms, more company is participating in this market, then supply curve shift to the right because, market supply is horizontally aggregated individual supply curve. So the number of buyer increases, then the supply curve shift to the right correspondingly. And also expectation to the future. Future price will go up, then not exactly today's price, but future price is a different variable relative to the market equilibrium price. So future price will go up, you expect it 100%, 90%, very sure, then you are not selling it today. So supply curve shift to the left. Why? Tomorrow you can sell it exactly the same cost than you produce, and then you can sell higher price. Instead of selling today, you want to sell it tomorrow. If the price goes up, your profit will go up correspondingly. So those kind of expectation can be changed the environment or supply curve itself, shift to the right in that cases. If you believe the price of that good tomorrow will increases, definitely. So those expectation can be changed the scene of, market itself. So demand side also expectation, supply side also you consider the future. By doing so, all the variable and all the situation can be changed correspondingly. Now I'm going to introduce supply and demand together. So supply, demand, and meet, ta-da, equilibrium, we can find out. We, as economists, first thing we want to find is equilibrium point. There is one side of force and another side of force is, conflict each other. We find certain point, optimum point we can find. Supply demand curve meets equilibrium point delivered. Buyer and seller meets, offer and counter offer, and certain point, at a certain point, they want to deal. The trade happens. Actual trade happens at a certain level of price and certain level of quantity. That's what it says as an equilibrium point. Under the perfectly competitive market, every single individual cannot interfere in equilibrium point. Once equilibrium point is delivered, they don't have any incentive to move out. That point itself is both of supplier and demander, consumer and producer get the benefit, most benefit out of it. We will talk about this welfare in the later chapters, but once equilibrium point interact demand and supply together. So we draw supply and demand in the same space and there is intersect at the one point, that's nothing but equilibrium point. So supply curve, demand curve meets, that point itself is determined as equilibrium. We can interpret as that equilibrium. That equilibrium point give out the most benefit for buyer and seller, demand side and supply side at the same time. And economy-wise, both players have best benefit out of it. So that's maximum welfare. We're going to look at it and we're going to analyze it later. But that point, we can see at the graph, demand supply meets, equilibrium point determined. So in this graph, $3 is equilibrium point. $3 as equilibrium latte price determined in this market. Quantity itself is 15. We're looking at the market demand and market supply and $3.15. They already shown that point. $3 quantity demand is 15, $3 quantity supply is 15. There is a 15 quantities of supply side or seller willing to give out or sell at the price of 3, and demand side is the same. So they transact or trade happens at that point. Now we can think a little bit more about outside of equilibrium point, what will happen. For example, this graph, surplus. What is a surplus? Well, the price of market itself is higher than equilibrium price. What will happen? It is called a surplus, $5. We observe that $3 and 15 as a equilibrium quantity and equilibrium price. But certainly what happened was price goes up $5. Then, as we can observe as a $5 level as a graph, quantity supplied is 25. So from point of view, I'm willing to sell more lattes, like a 25. And as you can see at the price $5, demand side, quantity demanded is less than 10, 9. Right? In the cases, excessive supply. Supply is way more than quantity demanded. In the market, what will happen? Well, at the price 5, there is a lot of quantity supplied and lack of quantity demanded. Then what will happen? Inventory accumulations. Well, in other words, there is a lot of output they produce to sell, but there is not that many demand exist. quantity demand is way less than quantity supplied. In that cases, yeah, there is a surplus of product, excessive supply. Supply is higher than demand in that price. Then, yeah, as I told you, inventory accumulation. Then what will happen as the producer side mindset? Well, it is not selling well, and it is accumulating of inventory. Then some seller would say that, or they can benefit out of it. I will cut down a price a little bit, and I will sell these products as soon as possible. They can go $4, $3.50, $3.30, $2. Oh, $2 is less than equilibrium. So they moving coal cut down their price until when? Returning to the equilibrium price. It is a very natural phenomenon under that sense. If there is a surplus happens, supply side cut down the price. Until when? Reach to the equilibrium price again. So surplus happens, price will go down automatically, following the market, phenomenon. And opposite side of the example is shortage. Shortage means what? Excessive demand. In other words, the prices go down suddenly without certain reason. We don't know exact reason of it, but let's say if the price changes to the lower than equilibrium price of $3, let's say $1 in the graph, and the $1 quantity demanded is more than 20, quantity supply is 5. So quantity demand is way higher than quantity supplied. What will happen? Even though you want to buy it, but there is no such supply, you cannot find the product. What will happen? I want to get it right now. I want it. Then, as a consumer perspective, I will call the higher price. I'm willing to pay $150. Give me right now. Or somebody call $2. Somebody call $2.50. Correspondingly. Then that kind of phenomenon happens, the price automatically increases. Until when? Reaching to the equilibrium price again. So price is lower than equilibrium price, shortage happen, and price automatically increases until equilibrium price. Surplus, yeah, price is higher than equilibrium price. Surplus happens and price automatically, naturally goes down until to the equilibrium price. Is there any reason to increase and decrease the price from the equilibrium point? No. There is no incentive, conventional situation of supply and demand curve. Supply curve is downward sloping, so the supply curve is upward sloping, demand curve is downward sloping. In that cases, equilibrium happens. There is no incentive to move out from the equilibrium. And once it is moved out, shortage or surplus happens, and it is returning to equilibrium point. In other words, it is called a stable equilibrium. But that we'll discuss later. Before summarize today's lesson, we will going through one more concept of supply and demand model. Yeah, this is really important. We will go over this kind of process again and again, but simply giving out some example of supply and demand model, how we can analyze market with this situation. So generally, what you're going to do is first we try to think about demand and supply. Demand is downward sloping, upward sloping supply curve exists, and we want to find out equilibrium point. Well, sometimes mathematically given some model out of it, function is given, you can find easily with the simultaneous equation, you solve it. Yeah, generally linear demand and linear supply, then easily find out solve the simultaneous equation. And Q is equal each other, like a quantity demand should be equal to the quantity supplied in the equilibrium point, then price and the equilibrium quantity will be determined or calculated by solving it. It's not a big deal, you can solve it. I will give you some example later, But once you find out the equilibrium point, the next thing is we want to find out how equilibrium point can be changed under this kind of situation. So once equilibrium determined, we believe that, oh yeah, market is getting to the equilibrium, natural tendency, we can observe that equilibrium point. Supply and demand exist and then they meet each other at the market and we can find out the equilibrium point. But next is, what happened? What will happen? Something going on in the market. Then we need to analyze it. Oh, price will go up or go down. Transaction or equilibrium quantity can be changed. So the transaction is increases or decreases. That is a really important factor. We need to analyze the market. So we need several steps to do it. First, something happens to determine the effect of a certain event. First thing is, oh, that event is impact on the demand side or supply side. We need to think about it. The second one is, well, is that impact is going on positively or negatively of supply and demand? We determined, oh, that variable changes is, mainly impact on the demand side. If you can expect, the next one is plus or minus side. Is that shift to the right, shift to the left? Is that a demand or supply is first? Positively or negatively is the second. Move to the right, move to the left. And you draw an X graph like supply and demand, and you moving demand curve to the right or to the left, you can naturally define, equilibrium price will go up, transaction amount will increases. Easily you can analyze it. We're going to do this again and again to be comfortable with this concept, and we're going to come up with this kind of question while you are studying economics all the time. So sooner or later you will be comfortable with it, but this is a really important concept once again. So as early as possible you clear this process, then you can get the benefit 100% out of this. So example is first example is market for the hybrid cars. So nowadays, right, environment is a big issue, and government's support to produce hybrid cars, and there is a lot of issue with it, right? Then let's say it. Consider this kind of market right now. So first impact is like this. Increases in the price of gas. Price of gas. Well, in general, price of gas, like oil, right, petroleum, increases, then they can be changed to the production process of hybrid car too. But it is a very small impact relative to general cases. Let's think about this. Gasoline prices goes up. What is happening? Yeah, you can think of the supply side too, but most likely consumer think that, this is long-term impact. From now on, gas or oil price will go up. Then naturally you're thinking, buying a hybrid car is good investment. Then under that point, what will happen? That will impact to the demand side and positively to the hybrid cars. So gas price will go increases continuously in the future. Then your mindset to buy or to save or to invest the hybrid car is better, you believe, and you increases demand. Demand curve shift to the right. Under the analysis, demand curve shift to the right. As you can see the graph, equilibrium price will go up. So hybrid car price will go up. And amount of transaction is increasing correspondingly. So by looking at the graph, you can easily, analyzing it. The second example. So second example is a new technology. New technology reducing the cost of producing hybrid cars. So new technology is invented to producing hybrid cars. Then what will happen? That's the supply side. Technology is implying applying to the production of cars more efficiently, then supply curve, without additional payment, you can produce more. So supply curve shift to the right. Then hybrid cars price goes down. As you can see the graph, the transaction amount is increasing correspondingly. So this kind of technique will be used from now to forever, to analyzing in general life in US, and while you're studying economics, you will observe this kind of analysis again and again. So yeah, be comfortable with this concept and model. Today we are studying about market theory. In other words, supply and demand model. So we are going through to the PPF model to deal with the trade before, and now we are dealing with the supply and demand, how market action or market analysis can be applied in general cases. And this can be very general in economics, so you can apply everywhere in general economics, labor economics, macroeconomics, whatever from now on. Micro, yeah. This is an introduction micro, and even though you are moving to the intermediate micro, you will do this again and again, supply and demand model. So under that concept as a summary, what is the demand function, how demand shift, and supply side correspondingly, individual, schedule of demand, individual schedule of supply, and supply curve shift, demand curve shift, what kind of variable we can think of, and the relationship we are thinking of. And we just briefly, giving out some example and to analyze it. And equilibrium point, supply and demand meets, equilibrium point, equilibrium price, and equilibrium quantity determined, and some kind of event happens in the market, correspondingly we can analyze it, how equilibrium changes. So that's today's coverage, and I hope everybody understand comfortably. If it is not, we will go through this again and again, and this is really important concept, as I empathize several times. So I hope be comfortable with all the concepts. If you have any question, let me know. Sooner or later we'll see you again with similar concept and similar example. So have a good one, and meet you soon. Thank you.